I collect from artists that move me, actually. I now know all the artists, but before I didn't. I always saw their art first. And it's a really good way to do it, I think, because then you get to divorce the art from the artist very early, which is a really good thing to do if you're a collector or have to deal with artists on a consistent basis. They can just judge the art, because a lot of artists are pain in the asses. So you want to cut that part out, and just want to deal with their art. So that's what I do. The thing about Chicano art is that it overlaps in so many categories simultaneously. It is about identity, and that is just as good of a theory or a reason to form a school around as abstract expressionism or Ashcan or Hudson River Valley School or anything. Most of the schools give a sense of the place, and identity is what the Chicano establishment has been missing, because they're still evolving that identity, and their official identity has been not accepted. In the article I say is that there's no box you can check on the census that says Chicano. You can check Asian, white, or Caucasian, Black, African American, but no Chicano. But you can get a PhD from Harvard in Chicano studies, and so there's that disconnect. I don't think identity is really what the school is formed around, but it comes to you in a myriad of different avenues, whether it's social, religious, political, gender-based, abstract, and all these points of view of that identity gathered together to give you the 360 of the experience and or the feeling of being a Chicano. What I'm involved in now is trying to kind of spread the word vis-a-vis art fairs and or, because mainly for the reason that nobody else is doing it. So if the Chicanos have to have a champion, I'll volunteer for it, because or else it won't get done. And so now pushing Chicano art that is not my particular, dyed-in-the-wool, esoteric, erotic taste, you have to be aware of what do you think that they would relate to, or not even relate to, but appreciate, but still with the essence of being Chicano. So it's like, I guess it's a question of like, would you serve them tacos without chilies? No, because that's not Mexican food or Chicano food. You have to be, you don't give them the ones that are going to send them to the hospital. So I'm on the board of directors of the Spanish Scholarship Fund, and I've created the first postgraduate scholarship in the arts for that, and I use all my Jeopardy winnings to fund that, and this has been quite a bit of money. So it's an ongoing thing now, and then now the scholars are coming out with the intention of having them get a scholarship and going out and doing something good to bring back reflected honor and glory to the scholarship fund, like kind of in the same way the Rhodes Scholars do it. And I always I've written a series of essays that I'll gather together in a book, and the title of it is "We Come in Peace and We Have You Surrounded," and it explains that the spread of Latinos throughout the country, which is we're in the midst of the biggest wave of immigration ever in the history of the country. 85% from Mexico in every state simultaneously, and 85% of them are under 25. The Census Bureau issued a statement about 2 months ago that I love this number, 50.6% of all children under one age or 1 year or younger are Latino in this country, all over. You can go to Rhode Island, you can go to Mississippi, go to North Carolina, Hawaii, Alaska, doesn't matter. The majority of babies are Latino. Chicano is a word that means amalgamation, and as I said in the article, every generation that comes along has as much right to define what is Chicano as any generation that came before them. The first Chicanos, the late 60s, civil rights Chicanos, they wanted to make Chicano totally political. It was only political. But it wasn't, and I think that they invented the word. My dad was a Chicano, and he's 90 years old. and so and so I think that at the end, what it will do, Chicano will be the stand-in for the acculturation process, regardless of where you come from, whether you're from Indonesia or from Mexico, or you're from Korea, because it's that blending of your traditional background with American pop, and where those two things come together produces something else that is both, and it's a gestalt that's bigger than the constituent parts, and I think that because of the spread of Latinos in every state, in every place that there is in the United States, that will take on so many more influences. I mean, from Iowa or Chicago. Chicago is the second biggest conglomeration of Mexicans in the country, and it'll have those influences, and it's just like, yes, it's going to be. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but as long as they kind of remember this is where it came from, it will go towards redefining what America is and has been. It's not like I'm putting Mexicans in the populace. They're already there and have been there. I'm just kind of trying to have everybody raise their hand at the same time so we can see. The market of New America is discovering new artists that, they just, because I get to travel a lot and have always traveled a lot, that I get to go places and discover artists that do it heretofore never make it to LA or New York or Chicago or wherever wherever the bright lights in the big city is, they're just kind of little, and because I can go to El Paso or Corpus Christi, Texas, or Mississippi and discover art, because they find me now. And that's a great process. They know I'm coming and they find me. And it's like any art, a lot of it is competent, but not a lot of it is singular or spectacular. And because I'm looking for particular something, I'm looking for the Chicano artist that through their creative process or through the product that they produce has that identity in it, in a bunch of different ways. It may not be obvious at the first. It's not like standing in front of a taco stand, but the influences that they take from their heritage and combine them with the places they find themselves in. It's a unique music, basically, and I recognize it when I see it. Yeah, it's first time you direct a movie and have to cast it. Man, it'd break a lot of hearts, but you make somebody happy. I hope that somebody's me. Well, as I'm delivering a lecture, or the basis of it, the topic is, or the banner headline is "From the Comptons to the Hamptons," because for the most part, the people in New York have no idea what Chicano art is, or Chicanos, or anything. Like even the most established and well known of them, they just have no idea. So this is we're reinventing the wheel once again, and you learn how to do that. You learn how to gather enthusiasm for inventing the wheel once again. But there's a sophisticated audience that buys art, so. And my mantra has always been to equate it to something else that they know. This is the Modigliani of the group. This is the Picasso of the group. This is the Monet of the group. Here's Chagall. When you put it in those terms, they understand. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I get it. Yeah, that's, there was this, when we opened up at the Smithsonian, and Chicano Visions, we were at the Smithsonian, we put up this one painting. It was called Kill the Pachuco Bastards, and it was about the Zoot Suit riots in the 1943 in Los Angeles. Actually, the thing took place that the mayor and the chief of police unleashed the Navy on the Zoot Suiters, that they were they were the punks of the day. They happened to be Chicanos. And they beat him up and shaved their heads and blah, 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 blah. And that's a picture of this riot. And so the director, we put up the painting, and she goes, I don't know, we're going to get a lot of school kids in here, and this is kind of real graphic. And I go, you know what? Every museum, major museum I've ever been in the world has some version of the rape of the Sabine women in it. You know, just depends on whose ox is getting gored here. You know, and when I put it that way, okay, okay, and so that's it. You know, and it goes along with Mexicans, Chicanos are quintessentially American. This next essay that I wrote is about English only, and at the end of just this English only movement. So okay, let's have it. Everything's in English. Everything has to be in English. Conducted. All the signs. You have to rename all the states. Colorado, Texas, California, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and that's just the Mexican names. Wisconsin, Indiana, you know, they're all Indian names. The only thing that's left is the news. You know, the New Jersey, New York. You know. And so how do we do that? I'm trying to do it in a comical way, but it's such the invisible elephant in the room that nobody sees it, but it informs everything that we do, everything. So the trouble, no, not the trouble, but the problem that they all faced is that in order to try to make their living as an artist, they had to kind of conform to whatever the trends in whatever place they were living at the time. So it's kind of an amalgam or a hybrid between that and their Chicano roots, and it was just struggling to get out. You know, you have that problem in Chicago where Chicano, the people that should be fostering Chicano identity in the museum, the Mexican museum basically, they didn't. They clung on to traditional Mexican roots. So any young Chicano that comes up and wants to make his living as a painter, hard enough to do, gets influenced by the mainstream because he's not going to sell the paintings that, you know, that without developing this identity and a bunch of people around, because it's made up. They invented it. You know, the Chicanos in L.A. and San Antonio invented this whole view of sophisticated naivete. You know, and so other groups. I want to see what a Mississippi Chicano is going to look like, y'all. You know, because that's going to be interesting. You know? I'm trying to get Chicano art to the point where if you say Chicano art, an image pops up in your mind. If you say Warhol, a Coke can or a soup can is going to pop up, or Marilyn Monroe. Or if I say Picasso's, one of those faces is going to pop up. You know, I'm trying to get Chicano art to the point where Chicano art, an Almaraz will pop up, or a Magoo, or a Gronk. Oh yeah, it's Chicano art. That's quintessentially recognizable, and that's a long time, you know. But every single one of those schools was fostered by some group, small group of collectors and or enthusiasts and or writers that put it up. The abstract expressionists didn't sell 10 paintings between them in their lifetime, you know. And I went to a show at the Modern, Museum Modern, what's the one in here? MoMA, Museum Modern, and the show was entitled "Abstract Expressionists that created all their work within a 12-block radius of the museum." And it was everything. every one of those guys, you know, and because they had Clement Greenberg or any of those guys to write about them and promote them to a well-heeled group of collectors, you know. And what I'm trying to do is to develop, identify the well-heeled, you know. I'm unique in as far as boosters of an art group goes because I have celebrity already. And I use that to okay, come here, sing a duet with me. You know, come on the stage and do it together. I'll use it because it's better than discovering, you know, bass players, I guess. Oh yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, I take the example from like when I made the movie Born in East LA, which was about that process. People from the Philippines or China or Korea or any place that came to this America under duress immediately identified with it. It didn't make any difference where they're from. They recognized that experience, you know. So I think people will recognize Chicano art because it speaks, but it's not one image, and it's not like one way of painting. It's not they're not impressionists. They all paint like that. What informs the school is the experience of being Chicano, and it's told from a myriad of different viewpoints and styles. and that overlap into already pre-existing styles like photorealism or abstract expressionism or expressionism. And they're all informed by, and they're all university and/or art school trained. They're not naive artists, painting out in their garage. Most of them do paint in their garage, they're very sophisticated. And they tell this very complete story in a very sophisticated manner. You can't love or hate Chicano art unless you see it, and that's what we're in the process of, getting them to see Chicano art. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's the same thing what I did. I never, when I first discovered the Chicano artists that I know, I was trying to learn about contemporary art, which was the gap in my art knowledge. I kind of knew some names, but what's happening right now today? So I started going to galleries on the West Side, and boom, they popped out at me. I understood them right away. I said, not only what the message they were trying to convey, but the technique,